It was just after sunrise when a man limped into the gym, his cane tapping soft against polished tile. No one paid him any mind, not until manager barked across the room, loud, dismissive, cruel. "We don't offer senior daycare, old-timer." The room went quiet. A few chuckled. One man didn't. He watched from the side, steel gray eyes locked on the scene, knuckles tightening around a worn towel. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, because what happened next is something you'll want to see from start to finish. Jason had come for a quiet workout. That was it. But life rarely gives men like him peace, not when disrespect walks so freely. The old man bowed his head, turned to leave, but Jason stepped forward, his voice low, smooth. He paid his dues, didn't he? Same as everyone else. The gym manager scoffed. Built like a linebacker, full of ego. "You got a problem, tough guy?" Jason just stared. Silence thicker than tension. This wasn't about muscles. It never is. It was about dignity, something the manager threw away for a cheap laugh. No fists were raised. No violence. But within 5 minutes, the manager would wish Jason had just hit him instead. Because there's more than one way to break a man down. And Jason? He's mastered all of them. Jason didn't come to this town for trouble. He came because his sister lived a few miles out, recently widowed, with 2 kids and too much weight on her shoulders. Helping her settle was the least he could do. The gym was a small, privately owned place tucked into a strip mall. Not fancy, but it did the job. It also gave Jason structure, quiet routines, a place to breathe. He'd been showing up every morning, same time. Didn't talk much. Didn't need to. The regulars had come to know him by presence alone, respectful nods, the occasional morning, and that was it. He liked it that way. But something always felt off. The staff was indifferent, the manager abrasive. Young guys strutted like they owned the place. One even made a game of intimidating newcomers. Still, Jason kept himself. Until today. Today, that old man, maybe in his late 70s, military haircut, proud stance even with a cane, came in asking about a trial pass. Jason watched the way he was treated, watched every sneer, every muttered joke from the front desk, and it triggered something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not anger. Not exactly. Responsibility. You don't walk past injustice. Not if you're still breathing right. And Jason? He'd been breathing just fine. So when the manager crossed that line, mocking, humiliating, stripping a man of his pride in front of strangers, Jason decided the workout could wait. Some weights you don't lift with your arms. Some you carry in your heart. The manager's name was Trent, a former college athlete whose career never quite panned out. Now he clung to the illusion of power, running his gym like a personal kingdom. Muscles thick, jaw tight, voice always 2 notches too loud. He built his confidence by tearing others down, especially anyone weaker, slower, or older. Jason had seen it all before. Different faces, same sickness. Insecure men masking fear with cruelty. After the old man left, head lowered, pride bruised, Jason approached the front desk. The kid behind it froze. Jason's stare alone was enough to steal breath. "Name of that man?" he asked. The kid stammered. Henry, I think. He used to come years ago." Jason nodded once. "You tell Trent I want a word." The kid hesitated, but didn't argue. Jason's voice wasn't loud, but it cut. 10 minutes later, Trent swaggered out his office, chewing a protein bar, grinning like a man with nothing to fear. "You got a complaint, tough guy?" Jason didn't move. "You humiliated a veteran, a man who served, built more character than you've got in your whole body." Trent laughed, fake and hollow. "We don't run a retirement home, pal." Jason stepped in closer, calm as a breeze. "No, you run a joke, but I'm about to change that." Trent's smirk faltered. He looked around. Others were watching now. This was no longer about gym policy. It was about respect. And Jason was about to teach a masterclass. The confrontation rattled Trent more than he showed, but pride's a stubborn disease. He doubled down, calling a meeting with staff behind closed doors. Told them to watch that guy. Said he was trouble. Word got around fast. Jason noticed a shift. Fewer nods. More whispers. Didn't matter. He wasn't there for friendship, but he was there for something now. The next day, he found Henry sitting outside the gym. Same cane, same look of quiet defeat. Jason sat beside him. "I saw what happened," Jason said. Henry gave a dry smile. Didn't think anyone noticed. "I noticed," Jason replied. "You used to train here?" "Years ago, before the ownership changed. Place used to be different. Respectful." Jason looked out at the parking lot. "Mind if I ask why you came back?" Henry hesitated. Wanted to feel like myself again, even for a little while. Jason stood. "Come inside." Henry blinked. "What?" "You walk with me. You don't need permission." It wasn't a question. It was a promise. Inside, all eyes turned. Trent stepped out from the office, arms folded. Jason spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "This man's got more discipline than anyone in here. You treat him like a relic? That ends today." Tension cracked through the room like a gunshot, but Trent didn't fight back. Not then. He smiled slowly, too calmly. "Sure, let him train. Let's see what he's got left." Jason knew that smile. It meant a trap was coming, and he'd be ready. Henry showed up every day after that. Quiet, focused, determined in a way that humbled even the most seasoned regulars. He didn't lift heavy, didn't move fast, but every rep was controlled, every step measured. Jason stayed close, not hovering, just there, like a shadow with purpose. But Trent wasn't done. He started playing games, cutting Henry's sessions short due to insurance policies, moving equipment. So Henry would have to strain harder, turning off the AC in the senior area. Nothing overt, just enough to frustrate, to exhaust. Jason saw through it all, but he didn't explode. That's not his way. He gathered proof. Talked quietly with longtime members, especially those who remembered the old gym, before Trent's ego infected it. Their stories lined up like dominoes. Disrespect, manipulation, favoritism. Even a few cases of canceled memberships without cause. Jason was building a case, piece by piece. And every day, Henry showed up, sweat on his brow, pride stitched into every motion. "You don't have to do this," Jason told him once. Henry looked over, eyes clear. "I do, because if I stop, he wins." Jason nodded. He understood. Sometimes you fight not for victory, but for dignity. Trent's smirks were slipping. He felt control slipping through his callous fingers, and that's when men like him get dangerous. He announced a members-only challenge, a strength contest, open floor. Not about weight lifted, but about endurance, grit, form, a way to reassert his dominance. "Everyone's invited," he said, staring straight at Jason. "Even the geriatric club." The crowd laughed nervously. Jason didn't flinch. He just whispered to Henry, "You're going to win without lifting a thing." Because sometimes the loudest silence is the one that ends a tyrant. The day of the contest came, and the gym buzzed with tension. Flyers had gone up all week, promising giveaways and inspiration. But it was clear to everyone, this wasn't about community. It was about spectacle. Trent strutted across the floor, high-fiving regulars, flexing for phones. He positioned himself as the final competitor, the king waiting to be challenged. Jason stood back, arms crossed, watching. Henry arrived quietly, dressed the same as always, track pants, sweatshirt, modest shoes. He didn't sign up. He didn't have to. Jason stepped into the circle when Trent called him out. "All right, tough guy. You've been throwing looks for days. Think you can outlast me?" Jason smiled, slow and calm. "I'm not here for that." Crowd murmured. Trent smirked. "What scared?" Jason shook his head. "Just smart. But I brought someone." He turned, and Henry stepped forward. A hush fell, not because of intimidation, but because of defiance. Trent's mouth curled. "You're joking." Jason leaned in, voice like granite. "He's not here to lift. He's here to stand. That's all." Henry walked to the center of the floor, back straight, cane set aside, and he stood for 5 minutes, then 10. No movement, no sound. People began to whisper. Some recorded. Others just stared. Jason looked at the crowd. How long can you stand without talking down to someone? Without mocking, without flexing? Strength's not in the arms. It's in how you hold your ground. Something shifted. Quietly, a young man stepped into circle. Then another. They joined Henry. No competition. Just unity. For a moment, it looked like a revolution. And Trent? He couldn't laugh it off, because he wasn't invited to that kind of strength. Trent tried to save face. Clapped mockingly, laughed too loud, called it cute. But his voice cracked. His swagger faltered. Because when men stand together without shouting, bullies lose their stage. He stormed off mid-event, retreating to his office. The gym buzzed not with tension, but with quiet pride. Henry sat down, exhausted but glowing. Jason knelt beside him. That was more than enough. Didn't feel like it, Henry admitted, his breast shallow but eyes shining. It was, Jason said. Trust me. But the war wasn't over. Not yet. Trent launched a smear campaign, claimed Jason was disruptive, tried to revoke his membership, posted edited security footage online, painting himself as a victim. What he didn't count on was the wave of testimonials. Dozens of former members and staff, emboldened by what they saw, shared stories online. A retired trainer named Mark released a video. I work with Trent. I saw how he treated older clients, how he mocked injuries. He shouldn't be running a gym. He should be getting help. Within days, the post went viral. Local news picked it up. Veteran humiliated in gym. Silent stranger inspires change. The gym's owners, silent investors until now, showed up in person. And Jason? He had all the documentation ready. Dates, names, statements. When they walked into Trent's office, Jason didn't follow. He didn't need to. Sometimes you let the truth speak louder than your fists ever could. He walked past Henry, gave a quiet nod. Henry smiled. You think they'll fire him? Jason paused. Don't care. I just wanted them to see. And see, they did. Everything. By the end of the week, Trent was gone. No public farewell, no press release. Just a darkened office and a silent desk. The investors had made their decision behind closed doors. Quietly, decisively, a new interim manager was installed. A woman named Carla, who'd been with the gym since its early days, known for treating every member like family. The tone of the place changed almost overnight. Jason returned to his usual corner. Same early mornings, same quiet focus. No fanfare. That's how he liked it. But people began to approach him. A nod, a handshake, a soft thanks. Not just for what he did, but for how he did it. Henry became something of a local legend. They gave him a free lifetime membership, framed his old dog tags on the front wall with a simple plaque. Strength comes in many forms. One morning, Jason found a folded note on the bench press. Some battles are worth the scars. Thank you for reminding me how to stand. Henry. Jason read it twice, then tucked it away. He wasn't used to gratitude. Not like this. Not pure and undeserved. But it felt right. Outside, Carla waved him over. You ever think of becoming a trainer? We could use someone with your eyes. Jason smiled faintly. I'm not much for talking. She shrugged. You don't have to. You've already said more than enough. He looked back at the gym, saw a teenager helping an elderly woman adjust a seat. No mockery, just care. Maybe this place had changed for good. Maybe that was enough. He walked to his car, sun just starting to rise, the day waiting patiently. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he'd left something better than he found it. Weeks passed. The gym became a kind of sanctuary. People of all ages, sizes, and stories shared the same floor, without judgment. What had once been a place of silent competition had evolved into something else, community. Jason never asked for recognition. He never would, but his presence became symbolic. When he walked in, people straightened up, not from fear, but from respect. He kept a quiet eye on things. If someone looked lost, he'd help them adjust a form. If someone seemed discouraged, he'd share a nod or quiet, "You're doing fine." That was all it took. Henry kept coming. slower now, but always present. He'd started mentoring younger members, telling stories not just about the military, but about perseverance, about pride, about rising after you fall. One evening, Carla approached Jason again. "I spoke to the owners," she said. "They want to offer you a permanent spot. Staff trainer. Your own hours. No classes. Just mentorship." Jason raised an eyebrow. "We'd call it the quiet corner, where people go to learn how to stand tall." He thought about it, about the old life, about the things he used to fight for. "Let me think on it," he said. But the truth was he already had. Some wars are fought with fists, others with presence, and some victories, the real ones, come not when enemy falls, but when a place begins to heal. Jason stood at the door, hand on the frame, watched as Henry high-fived a teenager on his way out. The kid grinned. "That old guy's a beast." Jason smiled to himself. Yeah, he was. There's something powerful about quiet men. Men who don't posture, don't shout, but still command a room with just a look. Jason was one of those men. Not a hero by title. Just someone who knew when to step in. He didn't come to town to change a gym. He came to help family. But life has a way of revealing where we're needed most. That gym had been poisoned by ego. It didn't need a brawler. It needed a compass. And Jason, without ever raising his voice or his fist, gave it one. What Trent never understood was that strength isn't measured by weight or noise. It's measured by impact, by how you treat those who can't fight back, by how you choose to show up when no one's looking. Henry walked taller now, even with his cane, and not because he grew younger or stronger, but because someone reminded him that dignity isn't handed out. It's defended. And Jason? He found a place where his silence meant something. In a world full of noise, full of chest pounding and cheap validation, he offered something deeper, presence. That gym story became legend in the neighborhood, not because of the drama, but because of the change. And when people ask, who fixed it, the answer's always the same. That quiet guy in the corner. You'd never guess it, but he saw everything. And somehow he just knew what to do. Maybe that's what strength really looks like. Not in what you lift, but in what you hold, even when no one's watching.